more important than anything, these decisions that I made, relative to top players not being here had everything to do with their availability.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Oxnard, California, and the site of Training Camp 2022 as we welcome you into a new edition of Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. As always, alongside Britt Johnson, I'm Kyle Youmans. Britt, we just got to hear from the front office for the first time this season as their opening press conference gets us underway in Oxnard. Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy, and Stephen Jones taking the stage and really addressing a ton of different topics along the way, expectations, game plan. What were some of the things you took away?
I actually was really impressed at the confidence they have in the younger guys on the team. You know, they asked Stephen Jones about the salary cap and why do we have so much space left in it. And he really was like, I want to give these young guys the opportunity to, fill some of these positions. And I think that's great. It's a great confidence for these young guys. And, we saw what Micah Parsons was able to do as a rookie last season. And I think it's just going to build confidence with the rookies coming in now.
He said that there is some dry powder just in case they need to go and make a move. There is $20 million of cap space still out there at the moment, and some veterans on the open market as well. But speaking of confidence, there was also a confidence boost from Jerry Jones to Mike McCarthy, saying that no matter what, he is the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, despite some recent speculation throughout the media, and really providing a jolt. What could that do to help this organization, seeing that there is some cohesiveness between owner and head coach?
I loved seeing that, and obviously we've had so much speculation about, is Mike McCarthy going to be the guy? And what Jerry Jones said was, I do have an opportunity to get another guy if I wanted to. Mike McCarthy's here because I believe he can win a Super Bowl. The question I did have, though, is how much rope does he have here? Because they also asked about the contract extension, which he has not given Mike McCarthy yet. So I do worry a little bit there.
Yeah, it was kind of an ominous answer from Jerry Jones in that case, saying, well, there are some years left on afterwards. However, he is the coach this year, and a 6-win improvement from 2020 to 2021. There is some confidence underneath Mike McCarthy. When we come back here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford, we hear from Nick Eatman. What did he take away from the opening press conference here in Oxnard?
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, and by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
Go Cowboys!
This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
With camp officially underway, we also have an opportunity to talk to the front office, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Mike McCarthy, in the opening press conference as we welcome you back to Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. Now joined by Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com. And Nick, you got a chance. You've had quite a few of these. What camp is this for you, first off?
It's 25.
Wow. So you've had 25 opening press conferences along the way.
How old are you,
Some
Kyle?
of our players weren't even born
that.
yet.
So let's talk about what you heard today and what stuck out to you in terms of the press conference and what was really the key point, at least in your mind.
Well, obviously his commitment to Mike McCarthy and just commitment to winning. But I think that the fact that he thinks that, they mentioned availability. And he didn't mention guys by name, but he sort of did, allude to the fact that they lost some high-profile players. But, he's like, still thinks that they're in better shape this year. That's what he believes, and I believe that he believes that because Jerry is so optimistic all the time, and I think that he thinks that this team with this coaching staff, with the coordinators and the young guys that they've got, that they can compete and compete for a championship.
Well, I'm not so optimistic all of the time. So what are some of the biggest challenges that the Cowboys are going to have to face during this camp?
Well, I think for them, they've got to get these young players ready to go. They're not just hoping that they come in. They're counting on them. They expect these young guys on the offensive line, on the defensive line, the receivers. They're expecting them to come in and compete and basically make sure that there's no drop off. And so that's going to be a challenge to just get them ready, get them up to speed.
Now, kind of along those same lines, what would be the biggest win of camp to kind of say, all right, this coaching staff checked the boxes, like he even said last year. They felt like they did check the boxes, that type of play carried over into September. How do they do that again, especially with this roster they have on hand?
Well, the biggest win is there's a tent over here of an injury tent, medical tent, keeping everybody out of that. That's the biggest win, knock on wood there. But as far as on the field, kind of what I just said about the young players, I'm going to go the offensive line. If they can get one of these guys, Matt Willetsko or Josh Ball, or both, let's be greedy, both, if they both can, and one of those guys, though, can develop as a swing tackle, someone they can count on. Tyron's going to have his injuries and issues at times. If Tyler Smith can stay at guard and one of those tackles can perform at tackle, I think that would be a big win.
How often does that happen when you see young tackles like that kind of jump into the fray and actually win some playing time? I know we've seen it recently with Terrence Steele. Yeah. That was kind of unexpected, but these are draft picks that you're expecting to step up as well.
Yeah, I think that you have to kind of rely on that. I think Joe Philbin did a nice job with him. I think the veteran linemen, the Zach Martins, the Tyron Smith, when Lyle was here, I think that they help these young guys along. So, it's going to be, you got to throw their feet in the fire, and then, whatever analogy you want to say, you got to swim and all that kind of stuff. Well, somebody's got to do it. The fastest swimmer, though, is what they need on that offensive line, and one of those tackles needs to perform.
We still have question marks around Michael Gallup's return. They didn't really address it much. They said we would get back to you guys later about that. Are you concerned that one of these rookies like a Jalen Tolbert can step up into that role, or James Washington even coming in to fill in shoes for Michael?
I'm going to stick with James Washington. I think he's been my guy on this. I think that he's going to have a big camp. Tolbert, though, like you said, again, it's kind of like one of those tackles. One of these receivers needs to jump in. How about my guy T.J. Vasher from Wichita Falls? How about him? I know he's going to jump around. Hopefully he jumps onto the scene as well.
He may be one of the camp favorites in terms of the playmaking ability.
Yeah.
He's 6'6", and he's got some catch radius. He'll have some fun, much like maybe a CeeDee Lamb did, a young CeeDee Lamb a couple years ago. Nick Eatman joining us here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. When we come back, what is the identity of this team? Zach Martin will tell you. We'll have our own opinions next.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Go Cowboys!
As a veteran in your career, Tyron, looking at just kind of what you guys have built, how much would it mean you try to put a resume of a Super Bowl along with everything you've done and Tyron has done in your career?
Yeah, that's the goal, right? That's our goal. Every year, and it starts now. It really starts, like I've been saying, finding the identity, finding what we're good at, and what, seeing what guys are made of going into the season because, it's a long year. So obviously that's a goal every year, and it starts now.
Zach Martin Sound presented to you by Sleep Numbers. We welcome you back into Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. Again, Brent Johnson, I'm Kyle Youmans, and we just heard from Zach Martin speaking about one of the goals of this Cowboys team on the training camp practice field behind us is find their identity. Last year, it was argued what the identity was, a powerful offense early on, the defense showing some swagger late. What would you say the identity of the team is this season?
Well, again, it is a little early to figure that out, but I hope they kind of adopt what they had going into or ending last season, which the defense said their identity was energy and effort, and I want the offense to kind of follow suit along with that and just add a little bit of grit in there.
See, and that was the buzzword that Mike McCarthy actually said up on the podium during the press conference. He said the identity to him is grit and hopefully discipline. Cowboys led the NFL in penalties last season. They have to find a way to turn that around, and it really starts out here in training camp, here on the practice field in Oxnard. Again, first practice right behind us tomorrow morning. Things get underway around 11 o'clock Pacific time, 1 o'clock Central. You can keep up to date with everything on DallasCowboys.com as well. Special thanks to Nick Eatman for joining us in the segment prior. For Britt Johnson, I'm Kyle Youmans. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, and by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.